it's like a roller coaster. Everything's always going to be a roller coaster. It's going to get good, then it's going to get bad. But in the end, it could be good. But in order to see that side, you just have to keep pushing and never giving up and pushing forward.
Hey there, welcome to the hashtag Proud to be LBUSD podcast. Today on the show, we have Gabriel Sanchez, who is the founder of Galz Media. Gabe is an artist, a writer, a creative, a content creator, marketer, business person extraordinaire, and so much more than that. And about a decade ago, I had the privilege of being Gabe's 10th grade English teacher and working with him as he was also the president of a student leadership program called Focus that really was centered around students building unity through service. It was something that started at Millikan High School and then was, kind of went to several other schools across the LA County area. And he was one of the founding members at Lawndale High School. And he made a big impact on me as an educator. And it's been great to watch him grow and see where he's gone in his life. And so, Gabe, I'm so happy you're here today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I was thinking about our conversation. I realized that the last time I saw you was at your high school graduation, which was in 2016, we figured out. So quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's been a while. And it's been neat to watch you from afar on social media and just watch your growth going into digital marketing and where you built your own brand and your own company and those pieces. And it's been awesome. As a teacher, you always want to see your students' success. And, over the 15 years I've been in education, I've got to see a lot of students go different ways. But you and I have some intersection, right? And I work in media and content creation in the public sector. You do it in the private sector. And so it's really cool to see a student who's also doing some of the work that I kind of fell into randomly. But I was thinking about that, and I haven't seen you in so long. So I'd love for you to just tell us your journey. So I left Lawndale High School your senior year. So from there to now, what happened?
I think what happened was kind of like I had a goal, which was to be better. So I kind of just focused on school. I've turned paths a lot. I would do good, do bad. So I kind of just realized this is the goal I want. This is where I want to be. So I kind of just worked towards it. Graduated high school. I worked at Old Navy, didn't like it. So then I worked at AMC. I didn't like it. I realized I didn't want to be I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to live by my own rules, do what I want to do. So I kind of just worked towards a goal and kind of just quit AMC, became an intern at a studio, worked 17 hours for free, and then became a studio manager. Then I realized I didn't want to be a studio manager. I wanted to work in social media. So then I became the studio's social media manager. And then from there, I didn't want to be their social media manager. I wanted to be my own person and work my own job. So I did social media management full time and left the studio to do my own thing and just kind of went with it. Yeah.
Right. And so that always drive of being an independent person. I remember you being that. You had a strong identity as a leader. And I mean, that's what really a leader is. And you wanted to lead the whole time. And so tell us in detail about that, because I know you got into photography, right? So I know when you were a student in high school, you were a really great writer. So it's not ironic. I guess it's funny that you went into social media and that branding stuff because you have to be a good writer, right? I mean, writing copy in social media to me is harder than writing an essay. I mean, being able to be succinct and on brand and use the correct language and everything in a very little small package very quickly, to me is more challenging than writing a 25-page paper where you have room to grow and stuff. And I always saw you in class as a great writer. You picked it up, and I was thinking about this last night. You asked to be my teacher's assistant your junior year, but you were doing the assignments that my students were doing in 10th grade because you just wanted to be enriched and grow for your own. And I've never had another student that was like, "Can I do the assignment?" And I'm like, You've already been in this class. And you're like, "No, I just want to grow my skills." So you were a great writer, but I know then you really got into photography, right, as well. So tell me a little bit about how did that happen?
I went to yearbook and I kind of started to shoot and do things, but then I liked fashion and stuff. So I kind of I had a mentor, Emmeline, who she was doing photography, and I saw how she was being successful. And it's crazy because where I'm from, it's I feel like I'm not able to grow. I can't be that. It just doesn't feel it's a distant dream. So I kind of just realized if she can do it, I can do it. And I kind of just kind of like with writing, I like started to shoot outside of school, and I kind of like did projects on the side, and then I just like grew that skill and learned everything I can. I feel like I'm like a sponge. I like soak everything in. So I want to soak everything in. So I like just like educate myself as much as possible.
So I want to go back to what you just said because that was really fascinating. So what do you? Let's expand a little bit more on. You felt like that wasn't for you. That from where you're from, you didn't have that opportunity. Maybe tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking about that.
I just feel like the environment that I'm from, like it's not it's like hard to kind of like be creative. You know, you don't have a lot of creativity around you. So it was just like it doesn't feel like you can be that, you know, but you can be whatever you want to be.
So you just didn't see yourself being able to be like, if you were to think back now, right, of 10th grade Gabe, could you imagine being where you're at right now?
No. It doesn't feel realistic. But
so what do you think was the change agent for you? Like what made that happen?
I think like my mindset, I just like made a shift and I realized like I can be this. I could do it. You just have to like work hard for it. And I worked hard and just kept pushing. And every time I would say, no, it's like not possible. It's not possible. I just kept pushing forward.
So how did you get to where you're at, or maybe let's talk about a little bit where you're at now. So you went through, I know, some internships. I know you spent some time in New York that was really pivotal when you were young. You started traveling, which, I mean, based on what you're talking about now, I'm sure was kind of unimaginable at the time. Like, wow, I get to do all these great things. And we talked a little bit at that time, and it was really exciting to see that. So what are you doing now? What is tell us about your company, tell us about your brand. What do you do?
So I created a company called Galz Media, which is a content creating social media services. But what's really unique about Galz Media is that we empower women. So we only really work with female clientele. So like from female-owned businesses to like influencers, just really wanting to create that community of like strong boss women. So that's what I do. You know, I create content for influencers, for businesses. I do their social media management, kind of just like I love like each client that I work with because everybody I work with wants to create a community. And we all are like linked in one big community. So it's nice to like help it with like certain circles, but then have it full circle.
There's kind of that inclusivity, right? That you're and representation, right? You're really trying to showcase all of these individuals, their strengths and what they do in life, but then you feel there's like this connectivity between all of you.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So let's go back in time for a little bit. So what do you remember about our initial interactions when you were a student in my class?
I think in the beginning, I wasn't really there. I was pretty like, I would leave. I would show up some days, but not show up most days. Like, kind of just like, you know, being MIA, but then I would come. But I remember every time I would be in your class, I would be interested. Or I would feel like you would kind of just tell us the truth. You know, you wouldn't hide anything. You would be like, life is like this. And you guys got to be like this, you know, in order to survive. And kind of just giving us like that raw type of opinion, you know. So I really liked it. And I feel like that like really helped me and made me think.
Cool. That's really cool to hear. I remember, and we were talking about this before, you know, we started recording, but I remember you hadn't been in class for a long time. And one day you showed up and you know, teachers are human, and I got kind of hot and I pulled you in the hall and I'm like, why aren't you in class? And I remember viscerally seeing you tighten up and you kind of disengage, where you're like, this is just another person yelling at me and I'm tired of this. I'm not going to deal with this. And I remember shifting in my brain in the middle of it and being like, hey, I'm saying this because I care about you and I want you to be here, and you've got to be here to make it further. And you know, graduating high school is the bare minimum in life, right? And you know, not for everybody, but it is. I mean, graduating high school and getting through that and seeing getting you to see like what you could be and where you could go. And I felt like I remember seeing that double shift where you went from being like, I'm not hearing this, to like all of a sudden we kind of had an interaction where it was like, oh, we're having a conversation. And then I remember you came back the next day, and you came back the next day, and you came back the next day. And then you were I remember you were in my intervention class. And, you know, for the audience might not know, a lot of time that's for students who are struggling in English or math, right? Or put in an intervention class where they're in 2 English classes at a time, which is frustrating. You don't get to take other, you know, maybe exciting or fun classes because your schedule's packed up. And we would do those assessments, those reading. I don't remember. We did that computer assessment that you had to do about your reading level, and yours was like off the charts. And there were multiple students in my classes like that, where what that told me was something went wrong in your education to get you into this room because you didn't need to be there. You had the aptitude, you had the ability. You didn't have a learning disability. You weren't at a place where you needed that. You just didn't put the effort in because you didn't have anybody motivating you. And I saw a shift in you. And I remember that being so powerful, where you were there all the time. Then you were my TA. And then when we got into building the leadership program, I mean, you were the president. You were the one driving that work. And that was so powerful. And it was just such a cool thing. So I want to talk about that because in the purpose of this episode and some of the episodes we're going to do where teachers and students talk is really like, what's the game changer? What's that relationship between teacher and student that has helped somebody even just see where they need to go? Because I didn't make you successful. You made yourself successful. But I feel like there was a time where we connected and you saw a shift of, I can do something with my life and I can be happy and I can be successful and I can find myself. And you, and I left and you did that. You just kept going. I remember we talked after I left Lawndale, and I remember you having kind of an emotional time and being like, I can't do this. I'm going to drop out. I'm done. And I remember having to tell you, like, you got this. And I remember you saying to me, like, well, if you're not here, how am I going to do this? And I remember saying, I didn't do anything. Like, you have it in you. You're the person. I'm just trying to spark that flame and get you to move. And then you went for it and stuff. And so in Long Beach, we talk a lot about sense of belonging with kids, right? Like, they have to belong. They have to have that identity, like you just talked about in the beginning about how not seeing yourself somewhere because you didn't have belonging. You didn't have identity at that time. It was so hard to build. And people often think that sense of belonging can be, sports and dances and all these events at school, and that builds the culture. But what happens in the classroom matters the most, right? Because the whole point of the day, you're in a room with teachers constantly, right? So when I think about that, I want to ask you, in negative or positive, how did the relationships you had with teachers from kindergarten through high school affect you, good and bad?
I think that you can definitely see when teachers care and when they want to take time to like talk to you and like have a conversation and get to know you outside of school. And I think that was like really important. It's like, I don't really like when teachers speak at me. Like, I want people to speak with me and kind of like build that like relationship where it's not just like teacher student, but more of like student with like kind of like a friend / teacher, just like, very like heart to heart type of feel. And I feel like when teachers separate that time to do that is really when I connect with people. But when people are speaking at me, I kind of feel like I shut off and I didn't really listen. And I kind of really realized it this year, actually, is like, if I'm not interested in something, I won't care about it and I won't do it. And I feel like that's probably where it went wrong, was at one point throwing all these tests at me, and I realized I didn't care for it, so I didn't do it. And then, yeah.
It's interesting because to me, two of the foundational terms in teaching is relevance and relationship, and you just hit on both of those, right? Like, you needed to be seen, you need someone to connect with you and build a relationship that wasn't this power dynamic, right? Like, I'm the grown up and you're the kid and do this. And I remember at the school you went to, and at multiple schools I worked at, I've heard adults say, a student needs to just respect me when they come in the door. And that it was always so bizarre to me. So I'm like, no, respect is a two-way street. Like, I need to respect you, you need to respect me. If it's not a push-pull, give and get thing, it's not going to work. And there's that relationship piece, and then relevance, right? And that like, why am I learning this? Why does this matter? And sometimes we have to learn things or build off of knowledge that maybe isn't the most interesting, but the craft of a teacher is to make it interesting, and build that out. And so what's some of the language that we need as teachers? Like, you said, talk at me. Let's expand on that a little bit more. Like, how do teachers need to talk to students like what you went through to feel motivated and pulled in?
I think just being like more relatable, kind of just like maybe referencing something from like a real life thing, like, because you did that a lot, where you would reference like if we would be like a lesson and you would reference something back to like your life, and then that made it interesting, where I was like, I can see that, and it made me visualize it and kind of be more interested in it. I feel like if it was more of a relatable topic, it would make things like more smoother.
I think that's powerful, because it's getting to know your students and connecting with their interests is such a big deal. And I for years, I started as a history teacher and then kind of fell into being an English teacher, and then ended up being an English teacher much more than I taught history. And in English, there's always kind of like a pantheon of like, these are the books that kids need to read and stuff. And there were times where I tried to find stuff that was more relatable to a student, because some things would be like, well, yeah, that's really old now and that's great, but it's not connecting with students. How do we bring that out, or how do we repackage it so that students can really connect with it? And in that, I want to ask you a couple questions, and you don't have to go too deep about it, but thinking about struggle, I remember being on my conference period and you getting kicked out of class like multiple times, your other teachers, and you coming into my room and you'd be like, hey, can I just hang out in here? And I was like, yeah. And it was like, what happened? And we would kind of talk through, this teacher did this or that. And I know you were going through a lot at that time in your life, like personal life, and that you had teachers that didn't understand like what you were going through, because once you and I made a connection, when you opened up and shared what was going on, it made me have a lot more perspective in how to connect with you and how to be there for you and how to sometimes give you a pass or give you a break and understand that you're going through some stuff. What do you wish those teachers would have known about you, or would have taken the time to get to know you? Like what are some of the elements you wish that they would have done differently so that you would have been successful like across the board from the time you started high school to the time you ended?
I would think compassion. I feel like everyone has like a bad day, and not everyone can be perfect and smiling and good morning and just like be ready to learn. And I think if teachers would have that compassion and showed me it, where they would understand he's having a bad day, let it slide, or, just put your head down for a sec, just like be like looking at me and realizing like I'm not just a student, but I have like a whole life outside of here, and it's not always the greatest. So I think if they showed me that, it would be much different. Yeah.
That's powerful. I mean, that last statement about I have a life outside of this, right? I mean, they're in like, this is my universe. This is my classroom. You're in here right now, not realizing the impact, the impact of everything else that's been going on in that day, and the day before, and dealing with things with family and stuff like that. So teachers need that compassion, but let's talk about to our students right now. What was it for you? Like, how did you make it through? Like I know you grew up, in a very rough neighborhood. You grew up dealing with a lot of family dynamics that what I remember you not feeling valued and feeling like your identity was celebrated. What about you? What about Gabe? What was that inner strength that you made it?
Just never giving up, just pushing forward. Like I feel like I have like there's a lot of bad, but then there could be a lot of good. So just like pushing to see that, and results, kind of when I would see me pushing and then I would see the results of that, and I'd be like, okay, well, if I can do this, I can do more. And then I just keep pushing, see that result, and then just like always having like that end goal, but it never really being the end goal, because then once you reach that goal, then you want to be more. So I think just having that, like always having a goal, always like driving to somewhere.
And that allows that perseverance, right? Because you can see the horizon line. You can see that's the goal out there that I want, and I'm going to keep going for it. So what would be your advice for our students right now? Let's expand on that. And it's probably about goal setting, but to be successful. So, and it's such a challenging time right now. I think about this. I'm a veteran educator. I taught for a long time and was comfortable with it, but I never taught in a pandemic. So I don't know the student that exists today, right? That has gone through times where they were isolated at home and all that stuff. And we don't know. You weren't a student at that time as well, right? But thinking of what the adversity you've gone through in your life and the accomplishment you had and all the goals to getting from, we can be blunt about it, a student who probably wasn't going to graduate high school to someone who runs their own media company and flies all over the world and does these amazing things and can just create this beautiful art. What would be your advice to our current students to be successful?
I would just say never giving up. Always like just setting goals for yourself and never settling, never thinking this is all that I can do. Everybody can do more. There's so many different stories out there, which is usually what I do. I like read like different people's stories and realize if they can do it, I can do it. So it's just like never settling. Always like if this is where you want to be, get there. Just set your goal, never give up, and keep pushing. I think like it's like a roller coaster. Everything's always going to be a roller coaster. It's going to get good, then it's going to get bad. But in the end, it could be good. But in order to see that side, you just have to keep pushing and never giving up and pushing forward.
And it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Right. I mean, just that inner strength of continuing to do that. And we've had conversations over the years where you've been like, I can't do this. And then you did. And even I think we had a conversation the other night about getting ready to do this and you were like, I'm kind of in a rut right now and you need to do something creative and think about that. And so it's that continual, right? It doesn't end.
Yeah.
It's not like you got through high school and you're like, cool, everything's great now. I'm fine.
It's a lot. It just keeps, you just have, I don't know, it's just like always pushing forward no matter what. And like, I think like taking mental health days is really important too, allowing yourself to like feel bad, because you can't always be perfect. And I think like I'm still learning that now, where like I'll have like something shift that's not the way I wanted it to be. And then I start to like blame myself, but then I just realize it's just a bad day. I have to like I have to feel that. And then next day, ready for the next day.
And get up and get back to work.
Yeah.
So what would you tell 10th grade Gabriel? What advice would you give if you had to go back and say, this is something I wish I would have known? You fly back in time. Hi, I'm future you. What would you say?
I would say to stop talking and listen. I think everyone was trying to tell me something, but I kept saying, I know everything. Like, I know how it is outside of school. Like, I know how real life is going to be. Like, I know English. I know this. I know that. But if I would just stop and listen, I would realize, like, some people were actually trying to be there for me. Some people were actually giving me some wisdom. So just listening and taking it all in and then figuring out how that advice can help you.
Gabriel, thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.